Well, hello, Shiny Crafty People. It's Tim Totten here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, you'll see these three sewing machines, and that's because this video is about reviewing some good starter sewing machines. Now, what I mean by that is a machine for somebody who maybe is just now learning how to sew, or somebody who's been learning how to sew but doesn't have their own machine yet. And these are specifically for people on a budget. So when I purchased these three machines, I looked for several factors. I specifically wanted machines that were under $200, and each of these was significantly under $200. I did buy them when they were on sale on Amazon for a Prime Day, so I got a good deal for them. But even generally, you should be able to find this for under $200 for hopefully a couple years from the beginning of this video even. And then I wanted machines that had they were full-size machines. I didn't want any of those tiny micro mini ones that they're selling from some foreign manufacturers without names. I wanted to make sure they were machines you could get more often and for quite a while, so that this video is actually helpful for people for a while. So I specifically chose machines by named companies. I have a Brother, a Singer, and a Janome. So I wanted to make sure that those were large enough companies that you knew you could get parts or be able to find online videos about how to repair them yourself, or you could easily find a repair company if you needed it. I also wanted to make sure that they had quite a lot of variability, meaning they had multiple stitches. Each of these machines has at least 6 or 8 stitches on them. Some, like the Brother, have 20-something different stitches. And I wanted to make sure that you'd be able to vary some of the details. So each of them has some way to change the stitch length. The Singer is a little more limited in that way, but we'll talk about that when I actually get into the specific machine. And I also wanted to make sure that these machines were available for a while now and should be available for a while going forward. The Brother and the Singer are both machines that are available at major big box retailers. So I know that you could go to Walmart or Michael's and get one of these similar type machines. So even if you can't find exactly these GX37 Brother, you could probably find one very similar to it by looking at the features on it and the other details. And so each of these machines is something that you could get for less than $200 with all those variables. And a nice feature is actually that all of them have drop-in bobbins, so they're a little easier to use than others. Now, I'm gonna walk through in just a minute each of these machines, what it was like to open it and whatever else. But before we even get there, I thought maybe I would just give you the quick overview of what I liked about these machines now that I'm sort of recording this intro after going through all of them. And then I'll go at the end, I'll give a complete overview of which was my exact favorite and what I would do with them. The Singer I really liked as a great machine to start somebody who's never sewn before and you just wanted to get them to understand the basics. The Singer was actually really effective at that. The Janome felt most like my other Janome sewing machines. I was a little worried that I would love the Janome too much because I've used a lot of Janome sewing machines, but it's the one that feels the most like a larger standard machine, and I like that it's got an integrated handle. It's got a handle that pops up. The others have an integrated built-in handle, and I don't necessarily love that part of it, but it works. And then the Brother for me was probably the best mixture of everything. And well, we'll get into all of that at the end as we go through. But there is something to like about all three of these machines, and there's a person that these machines would be right for. So why don't we actually go to a few more details about what I liked the most. So I started with the Singer because I figured it was either going to be the best box because of their experience or maybe the worst for their cheapness. And in fact, I think it was the worst boxed one. They just used this like expanding foam in there around the machine. I wasn't super impressed by that, although it was wrapped up nice and tight with plastic. It didn't feel like this was going to really help to keep your machine protected for long term if you're going to use the box over and over again. And I do strongly encourage people to keep their box. It's much better to have your box for long-term storage. Also, if you ever have to move, it's great to have a box that's got a big old picture of a sewing machine on the side of it. So if you need to find that box in your move quickly, you're never going to lose that sewing machine if you can store it in the box that it came in. Now, this came with a small tool area in the front and everything pulled together. So easy, not a problem. Now, the Brother, I assume, would be a little bit better put together. I was a little thrown off by the fact that the box was so plain, but when I did open it up, it did have really nice styrofoam there that tools were easy to find there, the accessories. And then, of course, the item actually came out. I did drop the instruction book there, and it was nicely wrapped up, although I'll tell you, you'll see when I go to sew with it, it had lots and lots of tape you had to take apart everywhere. But, you know, it made sense. This one was pulled together well. I felt pretty good about it. And it felt like, okay, well, they took care of it. It's in good shape. Well, the Janome, in fact, I figured probably has a nicer shipping. In fact, this one came wrapped in plastic so that the pretty box stayed nice and pretty. Now, that may just be the fact that it was sent to Amazon by Janome. Not maybe that it doesn't go that way if you bought this in a store. What this actually was the nicest one. It came sort of it even had a piece of cardboard there so you wouldn't cut the instructions when you cut across the top of the box. And the instructions here was the only one that had a really full book of instructions. Now I had to tip this over to get it because it's split down the middle rather than side to side. And when I opened it up, I was really impressed by how well this one was packaged. It's a great, nice thing to see it so nice when it first came out. Like, that's really minimal. You're only going to see that when you first open it, but it was still a nice impression. So I'm here at the Singer, and this is the M1150. Now, of course, I said that that's a little bit different than the one that I meant to buy, but it's the only real difference is going to be the stitch length, and I'm not that worried about it. It still has, as you'll see here, the stitch selector. It does have a tension guide here. It has a reverse button. You can wind a bobbin, and then of course there's the piece to come up for our spools of thread, so I'm not worried about it. Let's start this. I've got to find where the presser lift is. It's way down kind of low back here, which I'm not an enormous fan of, but you know, it's what it is so far. I'm going to put you off a little bit over there so I can get in here. Now I'm going to, this is all of, I think this is like the quick start guide they've offered, which is quite helpful. It's a registration for the product. Maybe that's something we should do. And this shows some steps, all in just not even any words at all. So I'm going to go through and follow the requirements. Oh yeah, the presser foot is over here somewhere. Here we go. Or the foot to actually. Now this foot, this pedal is taped up in a really annoying way. Points off for that. And I'm going to say this isn't even branded to Singer. It just says electronic on the top of it. And I've definitely seen ones like this before. So I mean, it does fit the Singer. It's actually the cord and the foot together. So they're going to hook into the machine together. So put that pedal on the ground. So flip over properly. There we go. So I'll plug the plug into my outlet there. And this is going to go in the side of the machine back here. Great. So I've done that. That's number one. Number two is to put some thread on it. I'm gonna have to get in here and get the pieces and parts out of it. Although it doesn't appear to have, it says to use this cone thing. I don't see a cone thing here anywhere, so that might be a little confusing to someone. I'm not sure I didn't miss anything in the packaging. No, there's nothing else in there, so guess they're just not going to give us one of those. All right, well, I'm going to put my thread up top here. So you'll see me putting my thread on there. All right, well, I can't do that. Now third, it's going to tell me to lift up the presser foot, which I've done. Four, I'm going to twist. It kind of helps to know. I'm going to go that until it lifts all the way up. I guess that's what it's wanting me to do. Just put this back on here. And I'm going to now pull the thread through. Is it going to show me how to wind a bobbin? Now here's winding bobbin. It doesn't even give me any bobbin already wound, so I got to do that first. I think this is confusing. I think that they should be telling you to do this part first, and they're not, because you're going to get all threaded, and then you're going to realize, oh, I don't have any bobbin. So I got to wind some bobbin. All right, well, here we go. They did at least come with a couple extra needles and a tool and a zipper foot, so that's good. I'm going to follow the instructions on the bobbin piece, and it shows me I need to come up and under that it doesn't quite show you how to get behind that though. I guess it's caught in there now. I guess it is, okay. And then we're gonna go around this. I guess that gives it enough tension. And then we'll come over here, put it through the bobbin. Again, I haven't used a starter machine like this in so long, I'm like a little confused already and annoyed actually. But if you were new, starting out, this works out. And then I'm gonna pull that down, and then the instructions say to, well, you would think it meant to pull that over there. I'm pretty sure that if I just turn this on and press the button, it's not going to do anything. It's going to put the needle up and down. I think that has to go over. There we go. You just have to snap it really hard. And now that's going to work. Yay. Finally. Now I'm going to get a pair of scissors. I can find one and trim that off. Oh man, what did I do with my scissors? Now it's important to know that this particular piece here, you can use a screwdriver and change the angle of that. That's why it has that shape. So if you want wider bobbins or narrower bobbins, you can do it. It decides when it's going to push it away enough to turn it off. I'm just going to let it go until it turns it off. And it doesn't do it's supposed to push it off. It doesn't. Again, I don't know. This is a interesting machine. All right, so there we go. I have a bobbin done. Let's get back out and look what it tells us to do next. Okay, we're gonna go back to how I thread this thing. Oh, this is how to put the bobbin in the bottom. Now, luckily this in fact does have an easier bobbin to put in. So I've done that, I've done these parts. Now I'm gonna pop this open on the bottom here. There was another bobbin in it. And then I'm going to, I'm gonna go in and drop this bobbin in. Now it says to do it with the thread coming off this direction. So I'm gonna drop that in there. This is actually very much like my Husqvarna. See if I can show you a way that I'm going to do this. You're supposed to go over here and then back. Did I get it to catch? No, I still haven't gotten it to catch. It's supposed to catch. This is really frustrating. It's supposed to catch on that little piece in there, which it finally did. Did it? think it did. I'm going to try to figure that out and I'll get back to you. So I was finally able to get that to catch. I was going in the wrong one. So now it just shows me pulling that out and putting this back over. So I'm just going to put that back over there. Now I actually have to go flip to the other side and go ahead and thread the top. So I'm going to come over here and do the threading of that the way it says you're supposed to do. So I will do that. Now I've already got it partway through. I can take it out of that section. And now we come forward of it. We come down and around, back up in, which is really good. That's working out beautifully. Behind the needle. Oh, that's working great. And then I can go through the needle. And it is just front to back, so that's super easy. Now, the thing I think you might find on these starting machines is that the light is terrible. And you might need a better light because I can't see anything in here. And I've only got it threaded because I'm lucky with threading. But there we go. That's now been pulled through. Maybe I'll change the tension just a little bit. Now I can go through and pull that thread up out of the bottom. And we're actually ready to start sewing. I love it. It does show you going to the back and using the cutter on the side. All right, let's go ahead and try sewing with this. I have a sample piece of fabric here that I've been sewing for other things, and I'll just go ahead and test a couple of these stitches here. So we'll go in. Now I'm gonna make sure that I check over here and pick a straight stitch. And it does have actually, even though it doesn't have gauges on top for me to change the actual stitch length, there are multiple stitch lengths here on this straight stitch, as well as a couple different zigzags. This is the zigzag, sort of how short it is, and here's a little bit wider. So I'm just going to go on that straight edge is fine. Check the reverse, works out fine. Pull my needle back all the way to the top position, and then I can pull out and cut here and see how well that worked. Seems to have worked fine. It's got actually pretty short stitches in there, not bad. Let's go ahead and change it to a zigzag stitch and we'll see how well that works. And there we go, we have a nice zigzag, and I think that did pretty well. There's a little bit of a tension issue. Either the thread has got too much tension on it or maybe the lower tension, but I would just adjust that and play with it. There also has a multi-step buttonhole here and some other, like a blind hem stitch and others. Really nice, basic, simple things. This is gonna be the no-nonsense to teach somebody how to sew for maybe the first time, giving them a machine that is not as difficult to use. Kind of interesting that there's so much tape to have to take off. At least put little tabs on it. Now this brother has a similar framework here as the Singer did, with this piece that comes off the front. It also has a similar shape on the back, the way that the Singer did as well. I find that to be very interesting. It makes me wonder if these companies are actually now related. And it has a similar drop-in bobbin. Now it does already have a bobbin in there, so I'm pretty happy about that. I'm gonna sort of look at how I'm going to put in and thread this. I have looked at the instructions already, so I'm just going to follow that like it told me to do. And, you know, after a while you kind of learn how to thread machines anyway. This one actually, surprisingly for a starter machine, has an automatic threader, which are a needle threader, which is pretty impressive actually. So I'm gonna do that on this piece. And because it's a new one, it actually worked. That tends to be one of the first things that falls out of these things that makes them not work as well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and, I didn't even hook up the pedal yet. Let me do that first and then I'll get right back. This is also one that just says electronic and is no longer branded to the company name. I kind of think that they're outsourcing this work. Doesn't look all that different than the Singer one that was connection. So I'll plug this in. And the foot's rather small. It's one of the things I like about some other machines. They have much bigger pedals. All right, let me turn the light on. We have somewhat of a light. It's kind of hard to tell that light even started. I'm gonna go ahead and check my stitch length, my stitches. I want a number 2 on here. I'm gonna see at the top if it changes. This seems to be, I'll have to check and see what that is. This is our width if it's a zigzag. This one has the zigzag. And this shows our different stitch length. Now here's the interesting part. It says SS, so if you went all that this way, all the way over, it would go to SS, and SS are all these purple stitches down here, and they're the purple stitches in the middle. So for number 20, which is what it's at right now, for SS20, it would give me multiple stitches. So I just want it to go back to, and I'm gonna put it at about a 3. This is the stitch. I'm gonna put it about a 3 for the stitch length up here. You really couldn't see that, but. So I'm saying the stitch length is a 3. The stitch width won't matter because I have it on number 2, which is just a straight long stitch. That's what I'm trying for all of these first. So let's go in and just start sewing and see what we get. The lift for the presser foot is on this side. I don't love it. This is our reverse here, so I'm gonna hold it down. It definitely works. And it actually does move pretty fast. Now I have to advance it. And I can use the cutter on the side. And there is our straight stitch. Pretty good. I want to go ahead and try a zigzag stitch on here, so I'll put it back under. I'm gonna go over to my dial. A zigzag is gonna be number 3, so I'll change that to 3. And now I can choose whether I want to change the width of the zigzag. I'm gonna put it up pretty high to the number 5, and maybe take it down to about a 3 on the stitch length. And then I can just put it back in the machine and let it go. You'll see it's moving the needle side to side. So I'll bring it back up till it starts to turn, and then I can pull that out and cut it. And there we get our zigzag stitch. Maybe easier to see on the back. So this is pretty good. Now this has a lot of stitches. There are in fact 37 stitches shown on here. Number 1 is a buttonhole, and I'm not going to go into that on this machine, but each of the machines has a buttonhole of some kind. So here we have the Janome MOD 15 or Mod 15. I'm going to go ahead and open up the pedal, the foot pedal here. All of them seem to have a pedal that connects. Again, another one that says electronic. They seem to all have a foot pedal where the cord and the foot pedal are connected together. Works for me. One less thing to lose if you lose the foot pedal or the cord. But of course, if you lose them both, then you have to buy both together. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and plug that in. The instruction book's a little bigger with this one. A little bit more of a intense instruction book here. I went ahead and looked through it a little bit to get an idea what I would need to do. And so I'm gonna just double check it again to see how it's got, I mean, it's got a full, this is probably the most fully pulled together version of this. Talking about connecting the power, all those things. So I've already looked over how to thread this. It doesn't seem all that unusual, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna take off the front. This has the same as the others, a little bit different connector there. And this one doesn't have a back piece on it yet. It seems to be made for you to be able to put a table extension or something on it, so we're gonna worry about that later. This one has within it, and I wanna show you all the accessories, it has an extra piece. Now for this one, that connects somewhere here on the back. I think it goes somewhere in like that. So you can put a smaller cone or something if you want on it. It does have the regular, that actually is the connector, and then it has the flat piece to go on your thread. So your thread is going to go on in this direction, and that holds on to hold it. Okay, I should have read that better before. Then it's going to have a bunch of other stuff in it, some extra needles. It's got, this is the only one that seemed to come with a seam ripper. That's a nice added feature. It's got a buttonhole piece. This is your screwdriver, basically. I would suggest you buy some other screwdrivers. And it comes with a couple of feet. Another one, just 2 feet here. This is a zipper foot. And this is another adjustable foot. Those are nice to have. And a couple of bobbins. And then this is, if you're doing the small spools of thread, you'd have your piece. So I will need a bobbin, and I'll have to wind a bobbin here, which is not that difficult to do. So I'll go ahead and wind one in just a moment, and I'll follow the instructions on top to wind it. Let me put my bobbin there, and then I can pull that off and follow the instructions that it says to do for the bobbin. Get the thread. Now I'm going to bring it in there. Did I do that right? Yeah, there we go. And then I'll just bring it right underneath this particular part there and over to the bobbin. I need to pop it up through one of the holes in the bobbin, which I've done, and place it over. Now let me make sure I turn this on. Again, another one of those presser foots on the inside that I don't like. I kind of assume the bobbins are pretty much the same as the bobbin that was in the Singer, so I could just use that bobbin, but I'm gonna go ahead and wind one on here. Okay, I'm not gonna wait till it goes all the way to the end. I'm just gonna go ahead and trim it and use it. Pop it off. Make sure you pull that back open. And then I'll go in. Now there is an interesting little button here when we're gonna change the, pull that and it pops this up, gets that out of the way. There is a bobbin already in it, but of course I'm not using that bobbin. I'm gonna place this bottom bobbin down in. So I drop it in here, bring it around that piece, and then, have I done it right? Try it that way. That appears to have been done the right way. We shall see. Yeah, it shows it unwinding off, and this has a diagram in it. So I did that right. Okay. Now I will go ahead and wind the entire, well, I will go ahead and thread the entire machine. Just it's numbered on the front of the machine. It's actually, they all seem to be about as easy to do as each other. I didn't find any of them to be too terribly difficult. And then straight through the back. And again, I think probably one of the best tools you can give anybody who's starting to sew is a magnifying glass. You should gift a magnifying glass. It'd be a lot easier, but I threaded that pretty quickly. And then we'll hold this thread. This is for anybody who knew is buying one. And then you turn the handle on this side toward you, always toward you. By the way, always, if you're looking at it, always counterclockwise, always toward you. Drop that down and it will grab the thread in there, and then you'll be able to pull up. And now you'll have two threads sticking out of the top, one from underneath and one here. And then you can use the thread cutter on the side to cut that. Right, now we're gonna test it. Now this one has the names of the stitches over here, A through G, so it's only got 14 different stitches. This stitch A shows you right in the middle, and B shows you off to the left. So if I change this setting to B, it will actually move my needle. So it gives you a little wider if you want it. C is a zigzag, D is a zigzag that actually goes along like this. So C is gonna do this, and D would do that number. And then you have a couple other stitches. So what I'm gonna do is just check, again, just like I did with the others, the A stitch. And this is my stitch length. So right now on stitch length, I'm going to change it to about a 2 like I used before. And I have a new piece of fabric here. Place it underneath, and I'm gonna start to sew. And then I'm gonna use my back stitch to make sure that works, which it does, and let's just sew off. This is the quietest of the three, which I kind of expected, because Janome, I think this one feels a little higher quality, just the tiniest amount of higher quality than the others. Although the cutter is not as easy to find. There you go, I found it. So now you'll see our straight stitch through there. Let me show you on the back, it might be easier to see it. Pretty darn good. Let's go to a zigzag and see how that works for us. Now zigzag is gonna be a C, so I'm gonna go here to C, but it's interesting, it decides the width of it by how far I go towards C. So I'm gonna go all the way to C, which will give me the widest. I'm still fine on a 2. The 2 was the stitch length. And I've gone here to the end, lift up that presser foot, cut, and there I have my zigzag stitch. So that one seemed to work quite well. So you've seen me unbox and open each of these machines. Now we get down to the final decision process. I have to say that I was really surprised that I did not love the Janome more than I did. I really thought I was going to like this the most, but it was actually one of the, not harder to figure out how to use, but it just didn't seem as smooth. I liked the fact that the Janome had a side thread, the thread was held on by the side. It was easy to use the function to put a bobbin. All of them actually had pretty easy bobbin winding. And it was easier to actually place the bobbin into the case at the bottom. But otherwise it didn't sew quite as well. I was not as impressed, and it was a little harder to adjust and get it to where it needed to be. Overall, if I never have to sew with the Singer ever again, I'll be happy. Now, that's not to say that this is a bad sewing machine. It's just that I am so spoiled by nicer sewing machines that I would only ever use this to teach someone to sew on. And someone who I could feel comfortable sending them home with this machine and knowing that they wouldn't get into too much trouble because there's not that much you can mess up. So it's a simple machine without very much for you to change and adjust. You can't get wildly out of pocket because you can't change too much on it. That was fine to me, but I just didn't particularly love the machine. What that means is that my favorite overall was the Brother GX37, which for a machine that was even less than $150, I was super impressed by, because I don't know how they did that. I don't know how they made a machine that was quite as good as this. Now, I would love for there to be a taller spool holder here. I wish that the bobbin winding was a little bit easier. At least it was easier to lock into place on this one than it was on the Singer. The Singer was, I thought I was doing it wrong. On the Brother, it worked a little bit better. But I loved that it had all the adjustability on the dials, that there were so many stitches. I didn't even play with all of them, but this was easy to understand how to do it. It was not difficult at all to figure it out. Dropping the bobbin in was still a little bit questionable. And on all three of these, I did not like the fact that if you'll see in here, that the presser foot came up from an interior handle. I really prefer a handle on the back or even on the left side. So this annoyed me just a little bit. But overall, this machine actually worked really well. It's about the same weight as the Singer. In fact, I thought this was actually relatively compact. They're almost the same size, not quite exactly the same size. But it felt just a more pulled together unit. I felt really comfortable using this. So most likely if I were gonna hand somebody one of these sewing machines to be the best for whoever, I'm probably gonna give them the Brother. And the nice part is it's available in so many different locations. Now I did put links in the description below for Amazon to where you could find each one of these units on Amazon. And if you use my link, I will get a small commission from Amazon. It doesn't affect the price that you pay, but they're nice enough. So if you'd like to support the channel in some way, you could certainly buy one of these. If you were going to buy one, buy it from the link in the description below. Otherwise though, there are still plenty of places to buy this particular machine. And if you can do it from a local sewing shop, do that instead. In fact, there are many other ways to support the channel. So if you'd like, you could hit the subscribe button down below, follow my other content. Even if you hit that little bell icon, it'll notify you whenever I have a new video coming up, which is typically Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time in the United States. Now, I also have a Patreon channel, and if you already know what that is, then you have an idea how to use it. But for those unfamiliar, Patreon is a separate website that allows you to support content creators. You can join as a free member and see some of the content that I have there, the extra stuff, or you could become a paid member and you'll get access to things like special polls that you can participate in. You can get behind the scenes videos, you can get special videos that I don't put here on YouTube. And of course, if you're a producer level, you'll get a monthly live Zoom call with me as we chat about what's going on in the world in sewing and wherever else. But not necessarily, you can enjoy all the content right here on YouTube as well. So until next time, folks, stay crafty. Bye for now. All right, luckily I have people in my life who need sewing machines to support their family. So I'm gonna give a couple of these away. Oh, it's like Christmas came early.